Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared has 2 to 3 villains playing and manipulating to foil each other's plans and fulfill their own. Each player takes their villain and matching mover, board, decks, and guide. The villain deck goes on the left, shuffle it and draw 4, and the fate deck goes on the right side of the board. For now, place the mover, the figure, on top of the character art. Keep the power tokens within reach of all players. The starting player receives no power, the second receives 1 power, and the third player receives 2. Read your objectives to one another, then start the game. On your turn, you must move your villain to a different location. Actions may be performed in any order, and you may choose to not perform some actions. Actions are: gain the indicated amount of power, play a villain card by paying its cost, activate an item's cost, move an item or ally to an adjacent location, vanquish a hero by discarding ally strength equal to or greater than its strength. Discard any number of cards. At the end of your turn, you'll draw up to your maximum of 4. There's one other action, Fate, but let's look at the villain cards first. Allies and items are played below your board in your realm, effects are one and done, and conditions react to opponents. You will be playing these cards to accomplish your objective. When you take the Fate action, you'll choose an opponent. Draw the top 2 cards of their Fate deck, choose one to play, and discard the other. Yzma is different. She has 4 smaller Fate decks, so you'll choose a card from one deck. When a Fate card is in play, it may cover and block actions, have an ongoing effect, or simply be a one-and-done event. No matter how the card works, it is discarded once it has been resolved. There are some other details, but most of them are specific to villains. This gives you a general idea of the gameplay. Move your villain, take actions, do what it takes to fulfill your objective while doing whatever it takes to stop an opponent from fulfilling theirs. That's Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared. You can play Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared on a large rectangular coffee table. There's a bit of grade 2 or 3 reading, and players will need to understand how to maximize their turns and timing, plus how to manipulate the deck in order to get the cards they need. With all that said, I can't see it being especially difficult for experienced 8-year-old gamers. I'll talk more about the time and my likes and dislikes, but for now, expect most games to be playable on weeknights. Once you've seen all 3 decks at least once, games could be as short as 30 minutes. Before that, they could last as long as 75 to 90 minutes. In our third game of Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared, Dad was Ratigan. The Robot Queen came out early for him. I was Yzma and was a bit worried until I drew Kuzco in one of my first Fate deck pulls. A couple of turns later, I got Kronk and the dagger. Kuzco was done. Dad was too. Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared has such a cool theme, and even though you just have cards in a board, it comes through. Ratigan's Secret Lair doesn't lose actions when a Fate card is played on it. Scar can vanquish at the bottom of the gorge and doesn't gain as much power from the top of Pride Rock as he does at the bottom of the Elephant Graveyard. Yzma's dagger returns to her when discarded. If you've seen the movie, you might remember where she keeps it. The character decks are very different, making each character unique to play with. It's really well done, and you'll want to try out all the characters. I love that this is an expand alone. If you have the original game with its 6 characters, this adds 3 more to the mix. If you only have this, you can play with these 3 and decide later if you ever want more. The rulebook, guides, and reference are really good at preparing you for both the general gameplay and how to approach each character. It's handy not just for new gamers, but for people like us. Nice job! This is a very mean game. You're playing as villains, so you must realize that, right? Anyhow, those condition cards can protect you from being attacked. There's also the Fate token. The rules say to use it in 4 to 6 player games to prevent the same player from being picked on. Honestly, feel free to use it at any count. Take the token when you're targeted, pass it along when you target someone else. Most games will be 45 minutes to an hour. That's not bad. I prefer if they lasted 30 minutes, but that's up to the cards. When this lasts 75 minutes or more, I can't help but think about the other games I could be playing. A heavy game like Teotihuacan City of Gods is only 90 minutes, which blows my mind. The family classic King of Tokyo can be played in 10 to 15 minutes. Don't get me wrong, I still like this regardless, but the 2-player game is quicker, but it's not as fun. With 3 people, you can be targeted by both opponents, but you might also be able to work in the shadows while they go after one another. This feels more fun than the I'm either hit or I'm not gameplay of the 2-player game because you don't have a choice of target. I wish there was a bot or a dummy player because I'll never play the 2-player again otherwise. Disney Villainous Evil Comes Prepared isn't very good as a 2-player game, but with 3, it's a clever design for people who want something that they can enjoy with just about anyone. If you or someone you know is a Disney fanatic, this is close to being a must-buy. Even if they don't know all the characters, I think they'll still have fun. Just don't come into this expecting strategy and skip it entirely if you prefer focusing on your game in peace. I'd love to see a gold tile expansion. Ratigan here has a double-sided player card, and Pete in the Perfectly Wretched box has 5 goals and you use 4 in a game. If there were double-sided, normal, and short goals for every character, that would lift this series from being one I really like to being one of the greatest family games ever made.